Bluff City Media presents the $2 Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another jam-packed edition of the $2 Sports Show. Uncle Buck and I had a call this morning where we were chatting a little bit, and it's like, man, for two dudes who like to talk, we got a lot to say tonight. So y'all better buckle up and hang on, because this might be one of the most filled and lengthy episodes that you've gotten of this syndicated show. Uncle Buck, sorry for the long-winded intro. Welcome in to the show, sir. How are you?
Man, I am great. I've had an eventful week, which is only fitting considering we had a long, eventful, traveling, packed, long weekend for Memorial Day. And so we've settled in at home, and let me tell you what, the hits keep on coming, and we'll get to mine. I've got a lengthy beef here in just a few minutes, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll get to all that. But all things considered, Buckets, it's been a good week. Any day above ground is a good day. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm trying to remind myself of today, because today's been one of those days where I have just been so busy. I woke up with my alarm. I dozed off and woke up about 35 minutes later and was like, oh, crap, I got to get going. I was rushed getting out the door. I drove to Jackson to check on my clinic there, and it's just like I was in the clinic. I was marketing. I was driving back. I had just so much stuff going on. I sat down and realized I hadn't called my dad back after he called me like 6 hours ago. And just like when I sat down here in the chair with my bowl of grapes and my drink was the first time this afternoon where I was like, and I got home and I mowed. I just sat down and was like, good God, what a day. And so I'm grateful to be sitting here with your ugly mug and have my feet kicked up a little bit and finally settling down for the first time all day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a madhouse around here, you know, and I know everybody's lives are busy and whatnot, and you've got to be really intentional about finding time to sit down and do something you enjoy. Yeah. And that has been one of the very fortunate side effects of this show that we love to do, is that it comes out every Friday at 3:00 here on Bluff City Media. So every Thursday night is blocked off for me time, which ends up being us time, but individually it's our own me times. You know, you've got, I tell my wife all the time, sometimes you have to be intentional and schedule off time. You know what I'm saying? Right. Off time is not just when you don't have anything to do. Sometimes you just have to schedule time to do nothing. And that's Thursday nights for us.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, Maggie and I were talking about having a date night and going out and doing some stuff tomorrow night, but she wisely made the decision, look, we're so busy right now. Why don't we just we get some food, we'll sit at home, we'll play a game and watch a movie. And I have never been more thankful for that string of words than I am sitting here in this chair right now, realizing how busy my week has been. Tomorrow morning is going to be busy as well, as I'm helping fill in at a clinic and treat some patients. And so what a good call. Shout out Maggie for calling for an audible for it to be a quiet night tomorrow night.
Yeah, this segues into my best of the week. So allow me to just intro it right now. For anybody who is listening for the first time to the $2 Sports Show, we start every show without sports. This is a sports podcast. It's two guys who go back 10 years, friends, that talk about sports for an hour to an hour and a half every week. But we do not start this show with sports. We start it with the best thing that happened to us this week and our biggest beef of the week. And so you kind of led into mine, so I'll start. My best of the week is that Haley and I are getting away this weekend. We are going to Memphis, Tennessee tomorrow when I get off work. We're going to watch our favorite comedian, Nate Bargatze, at the FedEx Forum. I got a hotel in East Memphis, Tennessee, and then we're just going to sleep in on Saturday, catch breakfast, maybe go to the Egyptian knockoff pyramid, to the Bass Pro, and just look around. And I told her, I said, our plans are TBD, and that they will not be D until we decide what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? So we're just going to go and just have a good time. And we have not had any time, just me and her. We've had me, her, and the baby, but that's not me, her. You know, there's still a third wheel along with us. That's a very needy third wheel. And so this, for the first time since March the 1st, I told her yesterday, our son was born on March the 1st. The last night we had together without a baby was February 29th in the hospital. So on leap day. So we're going for a much needed trip just up the road to Memphis, Tennessee to watch a comedian.
Love that. They didn't pay me for this, but y'all should go to Stacks for breakfast. Stacks Pancake House is not too far from me on Poplar. It's going to be a phenomenal breakfast spot. Good food. You can't go wrong with good breakfast food, and you can get a lot of good breakfast food there. So check out Stacks would be my recommendation.
You know, what was it that Ron Swanson said? That there's no pain in the world that breakfast food can't fix. And
yeah, that's it.
That is something that I live by.
Absolutely. Breakfast food is one of my favorite meals for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It matters not. You tell me you're cooking pancakes, bacon, and eggs, and I am en route. It doesn't matter when.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, tell us the best thing that happened to you this week.
I've had a really good week, good string of weeks, good string of days. Just life's going really well right now, but I got to be a kid a little bit on Sunday, and I'm really, really glad about it. It led to a blister on my thumb, which is not the best part of my week. But what developed that blister was one of my good friends, friend of the podcast, Ryan Gordon, was like, hey, man, let's go hit some baseballs. And I was like, dude, I am so in. And so there's this great it's called D Sports in Bartlett. It's up off of Sycamore View near the Old Bass Pro, and it's literally just indoor batting cages. And for like an hour and a half, we hit baseballs. We threw hit off the tee. We threw soft toss, and we pitched to one another, and then we went and hit on the machines, and then we hit softballs off the machines, and it was just like the best afternoon, man. I just I hadn't swung a baseball bat in a number of years, and I mean, I was a decent hitter back in the day, but that was back in high school, and a long time ago. And I for reasons we will not discuss in this podcast, I was forced into retirement from softball when I moved to Myrtle Beach, and then just kind of missed some of that. And so it felt good to get out and swing a bat and hit a ball again. And it was funny. I was hitting baseballs, and there was this dad and his son in the cage next to us, and I heard him like, look at that. He's staying in the zone. He's staying on top of it, whatever. I'm like, that feels good. Well, they were leaving. Yeah, your boy still got it after all these years. And they were leaving, and he comes over. He's like, hey, man, I just want to say thanks. I don't know if you noticed, but I was telling my son to watch your swing, man. It just looks so good. And I'm like, bro, I'm the most washed up one in this room. I'm the last person he'd be taking tips from, but thanks. So it just felt good to get out and just play, just play for a couple hours. Something I hadn't done in a while.
Yeah. How was your back the next day?
Honestly, back was fine. The thing that was most sore was my right bicep from throwing and swinging. My forearms, obviously my blister, but my freaking calves, dude. For there's so much push off in the swing, and there's so much anchoring in that swing. Like that next morning, I got up and got out of bed, and I was like, it felt like I'd had Charlie horses all night in my calves. They were just so post crampy sore. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, bro, you are an old man.
Not an old man.
No.
Yeah. So as I said earlier in the show, we traveled all weekend. We went to my father-in-law's in Alabama on Friday night. We went camping on Saturday night, spent all day Sunday.
Unexpected camping.
Yeah, unexpected camping at the church after church on Sunday. And then Sunday night, we got back in about 8 o'clock, and my house stunk, and it was about 78 degrees inside. And so immediately it was like, oh, this is what I get. This is what I get for leaving my house for any length of time. The sink had backed up on me. Luckily, it stayed in the sink, but the sink did back up on me, and the AC unit was frozen solid. So I worked on a sink for 2 days, took it apart. I fashioned myself to be a YouTube engineer, a YouTube handyman, and so I kind of got in there, got my snake out, to snake the drain and everything. Wasn't having any luck. Went to the hardware store, rented some tools, an air gun, all kinds of stuff, to some chemicals. And finally, yesterday, I just had enough. I was like, okay, something's going to have to give here. So I called a plumber. This was Tuesday, not yesterday, but I called a plumber, and I was getting my hair cut. He told me he would be here about 6, and turns out, as I'm getting my hair cut at about 5 o'clock, about 3 blocks away from my house, I get a call saying, hey, the plumber's here, and he's on the house, on top of the house. And I was like,
that's where plumbers go.
I've called the wrong person. This guy's about to hose me out of a lot of money here. And so I'm like, all right, you got to finish it up, and I got to get out of here. So I made it home, and he's still on the house. And I just kind of creep around back, and I was like, hey, man, what you doing? And I learned something new, that there are air vents attached to drains that go to the sewer that are 100% necessary. And I was like, why in the world are you snaking a vent from the roof? Well, apparently you have to have air for things to drain. And he used the analogy of putting your thumb over a straw and picking up out of the drink. And I just looked at him, and I looked at my wife, and I was like, well, that's obvious now, isn't it? Why have I not ever thought of that? I've seen that vent on top of my house thousands of times, and I had no idea what it was for. I assumed it was for the vent hood, but no. And he snaked that thing out. My sink that was full of water and cleaning liquids drained immediately, and he didn't even charge me as much as the air conditioner guy. So I learned something new, and it was a very frustrating day that day, because soon as the AC guy came and charged me $220 to put some Freon in my air conditioner, I realized that I was not going to be able to fix my sink. And so I had to call the plumber like 10 minutes later, and I was like, and it is the 28th day of the month, which means you're 3 days away from payday, which means you have no money. And I'm over here calling every utility worker in the world, asking them to let me pay them. So yeah, it was a very stressful couple of days, but we've made it through the other side. We did eat dinner tonight, but breakfast may not be an option tomorrow.
I'll send you some money for some cereal. Don't worry about that.
So, what's your beef of the week?
It's funny on that. Uncle Buck called me. He was like, do not ever buy a house again. As he's sitting in his sink or in his kitchen.
Forever.
Yeah, sitting in his kitchen in the shambles of his sink. So then I text him a couple days later, like a good friend does. I said, hey, man, how'd your sink go? He said, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, that bad, huh? And he emphasized, I don't want to talk about it. So I left it alone.
So you text me right at the perfectly wrong time.
I'm good at that. I'm good at that. So my beef of the week is one that is shared by Southerners probably for eons past, and probably Europeans, Australians, probably not Canadians, our brethren to the north, and people who live in colder climates. But I'm talking about one of the peskiest critters in the world. That's mosquitoes, aka skeeters, aka skeeter bugs. I have never in my life had a worse time with mosquitoes since I moved back. Now, this is going to sound like a first world problem, but it's well documented on the show, get a lot of flack for it. But yes, I used to live a comfy life near the ocean in South Carolina. Mosquitoes there weren't that bad. They had an ocean breeze, kept them at bay. They really never got me. Dude, I cannot walk out on my back porch to let my dogs go to the bathroom and be out there more than 30 seconds and not get 13 skeeter bites. Last weekend, I'm standing in the plant section in the Lowe's or at Home Depot off of 385 looking at plants, and my knees got lit up. Not my ankles, not my arms. Dude, I had 9 skeeter bites across both my knees. I have never been toted off more than I have by skeeters since moving back to Memphis. And I'm tired of them. I understand the ecosystem, God's creation. Everybody has a role. I understand. I don't understand what the purpose of the mosquitoes are. I don't know what their role is other than to annoy us, buzz in our ear, bite us until we itch. And I can't stand it. Uncle Buck, I think you're muted. You just imagine you muted yourself and I can't hear you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know what happened there. I did it, but I don't remember when. Yeah, that I get a heavy dose of this. Now, I'm not particularly susceptible to mosquitoes.
I never used to be, but now in my old age, I am.
I don't know if it's like blood type or, half of my blood is bacon grease. I don't know, but I'm not as susceptible as like my wife and children, and they get eaten alive by mosquitoes. And it drives me crazy, because we can't go outside without my wife like assembly lining these kids getting bug spray, and they need it. I get it, but I'm just like, let's just go play. Like, why do we? It's like putting sunscreen on. It's like you don't want to do the sunscreen thing. You just want to go get in the pool, and it's the same thing. It's like you got to have this repellent to keep from getting eaten alive.
And then you stink and you're sticky and it's annoying. And then you got all these other
Right.
things come with that. I just want to go outside in peace. And I don't know if it's because my skin is more frail, my old blood is more susceptible. I'm trying to eat garlic and do all the things, that keep bugs away.
And vampires.
And vampires, ain't messing with them.
Important. You think mosquito bites are bad. Get bit by a vampire.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
It'll keep you up all night.
I'm just tired of it. I am getting wore out by mosquitoes, and I'm done. And my beef of the week is, why do we have to have mosquitoes? They do not belong in the ecosystem. They have literally no role other than transmitting malaria that try to wipe out an entire continent. No thanks.
Right. No pros, all cons. That's what mosquitoes are.
100%.
Before we get to the ad of the day, I do have a story to tell.
Oh boy.
I got permission to tell this story, and it's going to have a little wrinkle to it. Just stay on. But family of the pod, Cousin Kirk, we all know that he is a patroller of the highways and byways in Mississippi as a law enforcement agent, a highway patrolman.
Thank you for your service, Cousin Kirk.
Yeah. Seriously, like, this was a serious accident. He was in an accident on the night before Memorial Day, a four-wheeler accident where he was trying to apprehend a suspect that was on four-wheeler. And as he grabbed said suspect goosed it, rolling up Cousin Kirk, and he ends up with a broken leg. That is serious. That is something that greatly disturbed all of us. The dangers that come with the line of work that he chose, a line of work that is one of the noblest lines of work you can get into, and it's, as is typically the case, the people who are called to do these amazing jobs are often paid way less than they should, given the risk and what they do for the community. So it was very jarring to hear that. Another thing that made it unfortunate was that he was leaving on a family vacation the next day. He had to get through one more shift, and he was headed to Florida for a big family vacation that they do every year. And so I called Kirk the next day, and I was checking on him, and he'd gotten home. He got cleared. He had a break in his bone, right below the knee, the smaller bone on the lower part of the leg, but it was close to the knee, so they couldn't really do anything for it. They wrapped him up, said, get on crutches, but you can go on vacation. So, silver linings. And so since it had a happy ending, jokes have been had. And so I just wanted to share a joke that my wife and I came up with the other night. It's going to be a treat. We wrote a song.
Here we go.
A completely original song. Melody and everything is totally original. You won't recognize it from anywhere. But I'm going to play it and sing it for you. Now, I will say that
this is a first in the Two Bucks Sports Show history. We have never had a musical guest. It's going to go with a theme later in the show, but we've never had a musical guest.
And I will preface this by saying I'm not a guitarist. My rock and roll days were mainly on the 4-string, rocking the low notes and keeping the hips moving. You know what I'm saying? But tonight, I'm going to play the 6-string for you guys. And I wrote a song that my wife and I wrote and had a great time writing it. It's an original song. It's called Kirk Got Ran Over by a Yamaha. Rusty, can you hear me? All right, hear the guitar good? All right, here we go.
Hit me with it.
Kirk got ran over by a Yamaha at a roadblock the night of vacation eve. All he had left was 6 more hours. Then on to Pensacola he would be. But a crackhead had other plans. He was drunk and had to get away. Somehow he got back on that danged old Yamaha and ran straight through a Gibson on his way. Too bad that guy didn't just take the DUI. Because little did he know that Rob Gibson 6'5" and 305 and doesn't mind to beat and tail just like Stone Cold. Kirk got ran over by a Yamaha at a roadblock the night of vacation eve. All he had left was 6 more hours. Then on the Pensacola he would be. Now the family's down in Florida. All the kids playing in the sand. And cousin Kirk's just sitting on his tail, drinking Rocky Mountain cold Coors Light in his hand. Turns out this has been the best vacation. The vacation of his dreams. He didn't have to walk anywhere. Jessica pushed his big tail in a rolling chair. Kurt got ran over by a Yamaha. Sing it with me. On a roadblock the night of vacation eve. All he had was 6 more hours. Then on the way to Florida,
he would be.
Then on the way to Florida, he would be.
Incredibly well done. Well done. Round of applause from the Two Bucks Sports family. If you like that, drop a comment. Tell Uncle Buck not to quit his day job, because as good as that song was, he is way better at being a Power Ranger.
Yeah. So my wife and I wrote that. She deserves at least 60% of the credit because she's listening to me right now. But we had a great time. And it's all jokes. It's serious. I get it. It's serious. What happened? This guy broke the law and Kirk paid the price. Okay, I get it. It's serious. But we are family, and we are a family that laughs at other people's misfortunes. Other family members' misfortunes, rather.
I texted him and said, hey, man, Drew filled me in on what happened. Glad to hear you're all right. But next time, either make sure he's off the throttle or get your big butt out of the way.
Right. I mean, if you can't laugh about it, then what are we doing here? You're just miserable.
Yeah.
So,
unbelievable.
Kirk, thank you for your service. Hope you enjoyed the song. I'll sing it at Christmas if you like. We're going to take our first break here. When we get back, we'll give you an ad when we get back. We're going to have to compose ourselves for a second. But we'll give you our ad for Vicky Gann CPA when we get back from the break. And then we're going to get into a whole assortment of topics. So just stick around. We're going to get into less tomfoolery and more sports, but also some tomfoolery. So
always.
Here we go. See you after the break.
Not just the level of individual talent that he plays with, but it's also the level of his mind. We haven't gotten cross-court open shot this year. Right. We haven't seen that pass a lot. Number one, you got to respect him going to the basket. There's a roller. I got to watch the roller. He has the mind to be able to say, I see all of that, and now I see this guy over here. I'm going to get him this open shot. How shifty he is to always be going forward. It's usually side to side.
Yeah.
His dribble moves are side to side, but going forward.
Right.
Which is very hard to defend. I just want to get you, as many times can I get you to do this? But for him, it's not here. It is here, which is with are his moves to get down the floor. It's awkward for a defender to try to catch a cadence. You dribble. So now what I do is now when you go put that ball down, I'm going for it. But with him, it's hard for my cadence. But what's my cadence for you? I don't know what it is.
Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Who do you need to step it up? Outside of David Jones, I think David Jones is David Jones.
I don't think you need him to step it up because he's been performing.
Yeah, he's David Jones. Outside of him, he's fine.
I think Quinterly needs to play better.
In what way? He's facilitating the ball well. I don't.
To a 12 from the field's not cutting it.
It's not great. It's not great.
And I don't need a runner 3 from the top of the key with 3.5 seconds left.
Is Virginia the game where Jordan Brown is going to cook? Those dudes aren't looking to run the ball.
Cook what? Dude, I thought he was going to have a freaking night. He came out with that fresh cut, lined up, and then literally within the first 15 seconds missed a wide open layup, and then picked up 2 fouls right away.
I feel real lied to because I thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy.
Didn't think it did anything for you.
Well, I think
we all thought we were getting a 20 and 10 guy. And we are getting that in David Jones.
I'm not even getting 20 or 10 minutes out of the guy.
Tune in to Tigers Untapped with TJ Willis and Trey Lasley every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the $2 Sports Show, section number 2. After what it was an incredible rendition of Kurt got run over by Yamaha. I don't know that we'll ever recover. I know, Uncle Buck, you got an ad. Real quick before we roll into that, like tonight's gonna be a little bit different. If you're a sports fan, this next segment is for you. We're gonna popcorn style a bunch of topics, but stick around for that third segment. We got something a little bit different planned for y'all, a little bit different from our norms. So don't want to give too much away. Stick around. We're going to dissect something not sports, but we're also equally as passionate about. Uncle Buck, tell us about Miss Vicky Gann CPA Services.
Yeah, so if the name sounds familiar, it is because she is my mother, and it is our family name. Vicky Gann is a CPA, a certified public accountant with 25 years of experience. She offers accounting services, income tax, tax preparation, payroll tax. She also does QuickBooks. If you are anyone that you know and love has a small business that uses QuickBooks or wants to get started using QuickBooks for all their bookkeeping needs, please call Vicky Gann. She can help you start it. She can help you troubleshoot it. Whatever you need, she can help you with. Trust me, I know, because I used to live in a house with her in which she would go for 3 days to continuing education courses to teach her more about QuickBooks. So just take my word for it. Give her a call. Her phone number is 662-415-6446. Or you can email her at vickyganncpa@gmail.com. That's vickyganncpa@gmail.com. All right, Rusty. Take us to topic number 1.
Welcome back. So, sports topics we got coming up. We got the NBA Eastern Conference Final is wrapped up. Drew, we know who is going to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. That would be the only Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, both are moving on to represent Boston in the Finals again and see if they can finally bring that elusive title back. But do we have the brewings of an upset in the Western Conference? The Western Conference, or in conference finals, teams that go down 3-0 are 0-154. They don't win. They don't come back.
In all conferences.
In all conferences. Yeah. Not just the Western. Eastern, Western, doesn't matter. All conferences. But the other night, Minnesota kept their playoff hopes alive by eking out a win. And what was a hard-fought game. Ant bounced back a little bit. He's been struggling a lot as a young player in his first Western Conference Finals. It happens. Seen the comparisons on Twitter. They've compared him to Michael Jordan at the beginning of the playoffs. Now he's being compared to Jordan Poole at the end of the playoffs, which I feel is a bit harsh.
It is.
But what are your thoughts, man? We've seen a lot of basketball since last time we hear the Ant collapse. Luka's been a cold-blooded killer. Like, what? Give me some thoughts on the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, on the Western Conference, I mean, I'm surprised by the game count. You know, I picked Dallas to win this series in 7 because of the reasons why they're up 3-1 right now. I believe that their 2 top-line players are better than the 2 top-line players at Minnesota. And really, when it comes down to it, you've got to win a playoff game, you've got to have the best player on the court that game. And it has just been the case that the best player on the court the first 3 games of the series was Luka Doncic. And that in itself is not surprising. We have remember, if you look back, and we may have been a little prisoner of the moment, but it was incredibly impressive what Minnesota did against Denver to win that game 7 in Denver in really kind of runaway fashion to put a nail in the defending champion's coffin. It was extremely impressive, but what you look at and what you have to win in the playoffs, you've got to have a dog. And Anthony Edwards has just not been it. And it's not a demerit. I'm not going to sit here and say that Anthony Edwards is choking. Anthony Edwards is 20 years old, 23 years old, young, very young. And it's his first time through the playoffs, like significantly through the playoffs. I know his rookie year, he went and lost in 6 games to the Grizzlies in the first round. And then last year there was a taste there, but this is like significant. This is a different beast. And most of the times you have to lose a conference finals before you know what it takes to win a conference finals, especially when it like the conditioning of it all. And Cat's been incredible for the whole playoffs.
I was just going to add that Minnesota is struggling because they don't have that veteran experience anywhere. Mike Conley's been to the Western Conference Finals. They got swept by San Antonio when he was a member of the Grizz. But you've got Kyrie, who's got a winning pedigree in Dallas. Like, he has won championships. He's played in the big moments. Minnesota doesn't have that anywhere on their team outside of Gobert, who's been in some conference finals, and Mike's been in one.
That he got played off the court in.
Exactly, just like he's getting in this series. But I digress.
Yeah, and Cat is what he is. You know, this is the Cat. It's hot and cold. And, you know, when he's been really good, Minnesota has really good success. And in this series, up until game 4, he was really bad. He played really good in game 4, and they won the game. I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as that. But Dallas, they're playing right now. It is currently 10 after 8 Central Standard Time on Thursday night when we're recording this. Dallas is up 37-19 with 11 minutes to go into the second quarter. So Dallas is now it's 40-19. They're up 21 points 13 minutes into the game. And so I imagine that crowd in Minnesota right now is very quiet. And as the road team in that situation, you're thriving on the silence in that arena right now. So I think I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Dallas is winning the series. And if you look back and you can do some revisionist history, and it tells me that, you know, they were perfectly built to beat Denver.
Good Lord.
But they're not as perfectly built to beat Dallas.
No, and Luka has 20 points already. Luka, he's going to go
from 3.
Good night. 8 for 11 from the field. He is going to go nuclear tonight. 20 points. There's 10 minutes to go in the second quarter, and he's already given him a 20 piece. And Minnie's highest scorer is Rudy Gobert at 7 points. So Luka is by himself, almost outscored Minnesota. 10 minutes into the second quarter, or with 10 minutes to go in the second quarter. This is wild.
Yeah. So I mean, no, I'm not really that surprised by it. I am surprised by how quickly it happened. It got on top of Minnesota, and shame on Minnesota if you're asking me. I mean, you can't let Luka take that shot in game 3. You know, you lost both your games at home in game 1 and 2, and you went to Dallas and were winning, and you give up the shot Luka wants to take the most, and you allow Gobert to get switched on him. He makes Gobert look foolish, like most competent players do when they get him around the perimeter, and they paid for it.
I have watched that video of Luka crossing up Gobert 100 times. Like, I cannot quit watching it. It's just beautiful. It's just your straight side-to-side move that you do in the gym and you practice a million times, and he absolutely cooked the defensive player of the year with it.
The nerds love him. Yeah.
That's it, man. Like, it's been well documented this week. Like, players like Tony Allen on the Chris Vernon show this past Tuesday, players know that Gobert is a fraud, but the media props him up. And it's the opposite with Kyrie. Players love Kyrie. That dude's a hooper. He's one of the best pure passers and handlers and bucket getter in our generation. Media hates him because he was outspoken about some things that he ended up being right about on some things. Maybe not so much the flat earth.
Not the anti-Jewish talk.
No, not that part either. Just going to preface that as well.
Just what Rusty's talking about is the COVID vaccine, and
that's it. That's it. Nothing else. I'm just going to clarify that as well. But I digress.
And I think while we're on the topic of Kyrie, I feel like this show in particular, I owes him a little bit of an apology. Although the track record was the track record. When he got traded to Dallas, he was kind of had that reputation, and arguably rightfully so, as a locker room cancer. You know, he had left Cleveland under terrible conditions. He left Boston under terrible conditions. He left Brooklyn under terrible conditions. And then he went to Dallas, and they tanked after the trade. Now, what we're learning now is that Dallas did the last week or so of the season made a calculated effort to lose so they could get Derek Lively, or so they could keep their pick, which turned into Derek Lively. But I think we, as a society, and Rusty and I, as the two co-hosts of the $2 Sports Show, have to say from this point forward, we cannot call Kyrie Irving a locker room cancer.
No, absolutely not. He's got them on the brink of an NBA Finals appearance with a team that is pretty young outside of Luka. I mean, PJ Washington's got some experience. Gafford's got a little bit of experience on it, but, Derek Lively, one of their big contributors, rookie, I mean, playing some big minutes. Right. And Kyrie, locker room cancer, Kyrie gave up the number 2 so that Lively could have it. Kudos to him. It just shows us some growth, towards the back half of his career. And because of that, currently he's got 8 points. Lucas still got his 20. Like, Dallas is putting it on Minnie to give him that work in the Western Conference Finals, and they're just a few minutes away from an NBA Finals appearance against a very beatable Boston team. I put in our show doc, can Boston silence the haters or the doubters? And I mean, they can. They've been the best team all year, but it feels like Dallas is a team that could give Boston some fits. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Minnesota's got the odds against them. The 0-154 is hanging out there. But by all intents and purposes, it could be a Dallas-Boston Finals, which Adam Silver and the NBA, money man are livid about because it's a very unsexy Finals. It's not what they had hoped for. But it could
given
be
the 4, though, that's the 4.
Pretty good Finals.
Out of the Final 4, this is the 2 they would pick.
Sure. I mean, that's fair. But not who they would have picked at the beginning of the playoffs.
I said on this show that Boston needed to flex its muscles because they'd struggled in random spots. They'd never really put anybody away. They did put Indiana away, but not without some help. And that whole Eastern Conference playoffs is a bunch of teams that could say it could have been us. It should have been us.
Right.
You had Indiana got to the conference finals by beating a Bucks team that didn't have Giannis and a Sixers team. And a Knicks team that was gassed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Celtics got to the finals by beating a Cavs team without Donovan Mitchell. They beat
Jared Allen. And they beat the Heat without Jimmy Butler.
And then they beat Indiana, who after game 2 lost Halliburton. There's just a bunch of what ifs. And so if Boston goes out there and lays an egg in the finals, regardless of who it is, they're going to lose a lot of respect. They really have to be competitive in this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And they have to win convincingly. If it's close and they still get a win, they'll get the props. But like, as dominant as they have been all year long, they need to be dominant in the NBA Finals. And they have the capability of doing it. But rest doesn't always favor a team. You sit around, you get stiff, you lose some of that. They're not going to play again until I think Tuesday, June the 3rd, I think is the next game. And the first game of the NBA Finals, Dallas has got another game tonight. They're winning by 18 right now, but they're still playing basketball, keeping those game ready legs underneath them. Yeah. We'll see.
Well,
Joe Mazzulla.
If Dallas loses tonight, the rest thing is equal.
It is at this point.
They'll get 6 days rest.
Yeah, at this point, Joe Mazzulla's got his work cut out for him. I think. Shout out to him being 35 and having your team in the NBA Finals and having an opportunity to win a title as one of the younger guys in the league. But last thing we'll really talk about before we move into some of our other topics, sports related. Shout out Paul George. PG is very pro GG. This week he was on a podcast and they asked him who is an underrated player in the league, not get enough love and hype. And Paul George said G.G. Jackson Jr. of all people, talking about being the youngest player in the NBA, making the all-rookie team, hooping, just pure talent, pure ability. Of all the guys he could have called out, he picked our G.G. Jackson. So shout out PG for being pro GG this week on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, players recognize other players. That's kind of how it goes. The media seems to have the loudest voice sometimes, or most of the time. But if you really want to find out how other players rank up next to other players, ask the players themselves. And for Paul George, who is an undoubted superstar, a 3-and-D guy who has just had a heck of a career for over 10, 15 years, for him to give Gigi his flowers, as you said, is very encouraging. It's exactly what Grizzlies fans want to hear. It's what we've been telling ourselves and what we feel like we've only been hearing from Grizzlies fans. Mm-hmm. And so to hear it from non-Grizzlies fans is very reassuring. Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly a guy who's got, a Olympic pedigree. He's been a superstar in this league. He hadn't won the big game, but he's been a superstar for a long time. And for game to recognize game, that's huge, man. Shout out Gigi getting his props.
Yeah, big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. Moving along a little bit into baseball for a little bit. I want to talk about this. What a great story. Birmingham Southern is a college, Birmingham, Alabama, D3 school that it was announced. Have you seen this? I'm sure you have.
Yeah. I've seen bits and pieces.
They announced that they were closing their doors on May 31st, that they are shutting that school down, not enough funding, not enough students, and school was going to be closed. At the time when they made that announcement, their baseball team was a bottom dweller in their division. They were not a good baseball team. All they did was go on a 19-4 run to play their way into the conference play tournament that turned into a bid into the D3 NCAA, the D3 championship tournament. And all they did was kept winning, and now are going to play for a Division III NCAA baseball championship for a school that as of tomorrow will no longer exist. They won't play again until Saturday and will be playing for a school that no longer exists. So I am all in on Birmingham Southern in the D3 baseball tournament. Go get you a championship, win the whole dadgum thing. I am absolutely here for it. And the players have the best mindset about it. They've interviewed a couple of them and that I've seen on Twitter, and they're like, everybody comes to us like, I feel so bad for y'all. Like, this sucks. Can't believe this is happening. And we're like, wow, we're on an absolute tear. We're having a great time. We're competing. We're playing baseball for a national championship. I don't know who around in his locker room is sad, but we're having a great friggin' time.
Yeah. And that's the right mindset to have. That's the only mindset to have that isn't just horribly negative, because any other alternative mindset in this situation it's very bad. And you don't go on the run that you've been on without having a very positive outlook on this whole thing. As the greats once said, don't let Birmingham Southern get hot. And they got hot.
hot.
Yeah, cheer for them. I do hate it for the guys because I'm sure there's lots of underclassmen there that if they win it, they won't get to defend. I mean, there's things there to be sad about, but props to them for pushing that sadness and that dread and that worry down the line until this thing's over. We're going to see this out as a team, as a band of brothers, and when it's over, then we'll, it'll be like senior graduation. Everybody just hugs each other and you all go your separate ways, except it'll be the whole team of all different year classifications.
Yeah. So shout out to them. Props to Birmingham Southern. The Division I baseball tournament is kicking off today and tomorrow as it is approaching Omaha. We have got playoff baseball, championship baseball being played. Mississippi State kind of got hosed. We going into Hoover, they said you got to win 2 and you'll host. And so we won 2 and we didn't host. They said it came down to State and ECU. And it's just, it feels like they move the goalpost on us every year, right? Like 1 year it's RPI, and then it's strength of schedule. Then it's, all these different things. This year they said it was head-to-head opponents. And all Mississippi State, the only opponent that Mississippi State and ECU shared was Memphis. Mississippi State went 2-0 against Memphis in a midweek 2-game series, and ECU went 3-0. So congratulations. You get to host because you played and beat Memphis one more time than Mississippi State. Or is it because your AD was on the committee and helped with that? It's the same reason why Florida has 11 schools in the tournament right now, just like the SEC. Like, it's a political game, and it sucks. Like Mississippi State, Dudy Noble, we did what we needed to do to host a regional at Dudy Noble, and we got screwed by a governing body that cannot make up their mind what their metrics are. So Mississippi State plays at Virginia. We all know what happened the last 2 times State has played Virginia in playoff baseball. We played them on the road to our national championship in 21. And the last time we were selected to go to Charlottesville was in 2012. And all we did was beat them to go play Florida State in the Supers. And so let's repeat that magic. We've got a decently tough division or a bracket. Virginia's the 1 seed. We're the 2 seed. We've got St. John's and Penn, who are a couple teams that people are saying are sleepers that could be a competitive force as a 3 or 4 seed. They shouldn't compete with State or Virginia. But shout out State for making the NCAA tournament. Sucks we didn't get to host. Let's go beat Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a State fan, I'd be upset. But the fact of the matter is there's 16 teams here, and all 16 teams were higher RPI than Mississippi State. And Mississippi State, you want to say we're from the SEC, we play a harder schedule, but State didn't what their schedule turned out to be, looking back, it was not nearly as hard as it looked when the season started. You know, you got LSU week 1 when they were terrible. LSU got hot later, but they were in the dumps then. You know, you played your West schedule, but then out of the East, you played Vandy, who was not good. You played Tennessee. No, I'm sorry, you didn't play Tennessee in a
not in the regular season.
Yeah, so you played Missouri, you played Vanderbilt, you played Georgia, and
played Florida.
And that's just not a good crossover slate there. You know, you went 17-13 in the SEC, which should be pretty good and most of the time good enough to host. But those 17 games just didn't leave a lot. You lost the series to Ole Miss, you know, which did hurt. Now, Ole Miss had a pretty good RPI for a team that went 11-19 in the SEC. They had a 30-something RPI. But, I mean, you look at the teams that are hosting, you know, Tennessee, A&M, Kentucky, North Carolina, Arkansas, Georgia, Clemson, Florida State, Wake Forest. Indiana State did not host, did they?
No, they didn't. They were. We ended up 17. Indiana State was 18 in the final rankings.
So according to NCAA.com, State had the 25th RPI in the country. That is behind Alabama at 24, LSU at 23, East Carolina at 22. And then, you know,
I think my biggest beef with that, yes, RPI is definitely something that matters. But the committee, the chairman of the committee came out and said that for us this year, it came down to head-to-head opponents and the common opponents. And the only common opponent we have with ECU,
I don't know that it really was Memphis.
That's what he said. That is work. That is what he said.
No, but did it come down to Mississippi State versus East Carolina?
They were the 16 seed. We were the 17 seed. So clearly it came down to the two of us to host that one. And our one common opponent was Memphis. Congratulations. You played Memphis one more time. You know, it's the same thing. Like I shared in a group chat with some other buddies, like we played UNA when the committee told us to beat UNA and it dropped our RPI. If you want to talk RPI, we didn't do like Ole Miss last year where they, or a couple years ago, canceled on a game to not affect
they don't
RPI.
allow you to do that anymore.
Yeah. And we asked, and they said, no, play the game. We played it, and our RPI dropped. So that sucks that we did that.
Right. What
we played by the rules, and we got screwed. They're moving the goalposts.
Lots of teams did that, back in the day, and the rule needed to be changed. It was gaming the system when Ole Miss did it, and they changed the rule. But it's kind of like tax laws. You got to try to bend them every once in a while. And when they figure out they're broken, then they fix them. But I did think that Mississippi State did enough. However, I have a hard time finding the school there to jump Mississippi State ahead of. East Carolina is a name. And I think that State fans are most upset because they believe that Duty Noble deserves the host more than the Jungle at East Carolina.
Which is
the environment, the host site is better. That should not matter.
I agree. But for an NCAA that is hungry about money and that's all they really care about, Duty Noble is going to bring in so much more money than the Jungle at ECU. But you know what? They got Wake Forest in their bracket. So good luck with that. That sucks because you got to face Chase Burns.
Go Hoos.
That's it, man. That's it, 100%. So shout out Mississippi State.
The Hoos or the Virginia Cavaliers, there, buddy.
Sorry,
I'm going to clip that. I'm going to clip that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Say it again. Go Hoos.
No, absolutely not. Hail
Steven
State.
Scopes, you're my boy.
Ask Steven Scopes about Mississippi State. He knows from a fan and from a player experience how that goes. But speaking of baseball, last thing we'll talk about, we have the passing of the torch of sorts in professional baseball. One, Angel Hernandez is much to the malignment of really nobody. I read this week that he's retiring from being an umpire. For those of you keeping up and don't really know who that is, Angel Hernandez was one of the worst umpires in Major League Baseball history. I heard about this. He had a meeting with Rob Manfield. They talked about it, and he said, Angel, it's just getting ridiculous. You're just missing call after call. We can't have this product on the field anymore. Right. It's taking away viewers. And Angel got so mad, he got up and he stormed out. He grabbed the door. He flung it open. He slammed it shut behind him. And about 5 minutes later, he came out of the closet and then went out the door and left because he was still angry, but he missed the door that he was supposed to go out because he's just so bad. It was so bad for baseball. It made the product almost unwatchable. If you wanted to watch baseball, he made it all about him. So for me, as a baseball fan, adios, happy trails, good riddance, Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, he was the lethal combination of horrible yet arrogant. And you can't be both. You can be one or the other, but you cannot be both. And he had the shortest fuse and the biggest strike zone. Like it's a terrible combination. I don't think he had umpired a game since like this early in May, and he was kind of on some kind of forced sabbatical or something, and then he retired. And so he was shown the door. And it's what they should have done to Joe West a long time ago, too. They just let Joe West go into retirement.
Joe West came out in his defense and said, whether you like to admit it or not, he's one of the best in the game. It's like, Joe, you missed that one too, buddy.
No, he just wasn't. And the Angel Hernandez thing, it was bad. His strike zone was bad. There's no denying it. But you could have lasted a lot longer in Major League Baseball if you weren't also a jerk about it, you know?
That's it, man.
And he had filed like in 2017 he had a lawsuit against Major League Baseball for discrimination that he lost.
Yeah.
And like got thrown out. So like how he wasn't fired then, I don't know. But anyway,
anyway.
Doesn't sound like a kind of guy that you would want to go share a drink with.
No. So happy trails, happy retirement. Don't miss the couch when you go to sit on it. So anyway, with that, we're going to head into our final segment, last commercial break. Stick around. We got a very special final segment planned for y'all. If you notice, we crammed all of our sports into the second segment because we're going to do things a little bit different tonight. As
we're going to talk about some music. Music. Stay with us, music buffs.
Yes, sir. We will see you on the other side of the break to talk about some music.
I'm just big on being able to vocalize what someone's role is. I always thought my best coaches were the people that let me know exactly what you expect from me. Now, I might not like it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. But if you come to me man to man to say, this is how we think we're gonna play you, bang, 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 and hopefully everybody understand. I'm not saying that this has not been done with this team. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying from my experience, we all have egos when we get to this game. Right. All of us, to the last person on the bench, you got an ego, but all of us can't be the man. Yeah, you got to be able to say, okay, he's the man, but what do I do and what can I do to help us be good? And if it's vocalized to you, then you know exactly and if I'm out there doing it and now I'm not getting the result from you, now we got to sit down and have another conversation. Mm-hmm. But as long as it is told to you, this is what we expect from you, this is how we want you to play, then I feel like, again, keeping this logo. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel. All right, Christian.
Yes.
You are Penny Hardaway.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Today, you're going to play act. Okay? Gabe, because you're a Jordan Brown apologist, you're going to be Jordan Brown.
I'm a Jordan Brown apologist. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Y'all are sitting across the room from each other.
I said, don't tweet him hate. And he's like, you're an apologist. Like, good God. But either way, continue. We're in a room together.
Why did things break down?
Jordan, we brought you in this year to be the centerpiece of our offense. You came in out of shape. Let's call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. We play fast. Told you this when we were recruiting you. We play fast. One of the fastest paces in the country. You have to be able to get up and down the floor. You have failed at that.
Oh, well, I'm leaving. So it's fine.
Cool. Tune in to On the Bluff with Christian Fowler and Gabe Kuhn every Tuesday at 12 p.m. on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
Welcome back to the $2 Sports Show / music show. We've already been serenaded by the wonderful soothing pipes that Uncle Buck has and strummed his guitar for us in the first segment. So tonight in our third segment, we're going to talk about the Apple Top 100 Best Albums list that was released this past week. Uncle Buck and I had a little mini conversation about it earlier. And there's some interesting choices on here, Uncle Buck. You know, some of them I've never heard a whole lot of or heard of at all. You don't know that I necessarily agree with the number one album of all time, but again, this is a list compiled per Apple Music of the best 100 albums of all time across all genres. It's not just pop, not just R&B. There's one country album on this. It's across all genres. And so, Uncle Buck, I know we had a chance to talk about it earlier. The number one album of all time, according to Apple Music, is Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill, released in 1998, coming in at first ahead of albums like Thriller by Michael Jackson. Abbey Road came in third by the Beatles. Number 4, Purple Rain with Prince in the Ocean. Prince in the Revolution. Frank Ocean at 5th with Blonde. Rounding out the top 10, I'll knock those out real quick and I'll shut up. But Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder, which is a phenomenal album. So many good hits on that. We have our first actual hip-hop album, which I like Kendrick Lamar. It's not my favorite of his albums, but Good Kid, Mad City. Back to Black by Amy Winehouse coming in 8th. Nevermind by Nirvana. And they waited all the way to number 10 to put Beyonce herself with number 10, Lemonade, which, again, I don't know that was her best album. They made the top 10.
What's her best album, Rusty?
Okay.
Don't act like you know the catalog. I know 2 Beyonce songs, and it's if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it.
Which ain't on Lemonade. Which ain't on Lemonade, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know that there's a lot of opinions. I think they talk to a lot of artists, like current artists, which will obviously skew the results to a younger crowd. But Wikipedia put this out and kind of put the percentages of genres represented in the top 100. And it shows that 21% of the albums that are in the top 100 are hip hop and rap albums, which just proves my point that this was a younger, maybe aren't as focused on the oldies, the classics. They obviously got some of them. Obviously, Thriller was up there. Abbey Road and Purple Rain and Songs in the Key of Life, all those incredible oldie records that they were albums. Like for me, music changed when it got put on a phone. I grew up in an era in which I had CDs. Me and my dad, when I was a kid, listened to cassettes. And so album sales are not what they used to be because you're buying singles or you're streaming, you're picking and choosing songs instead of buying an album. And so after a lot, I mean, there's a few albums recently and they're all bands that I love anyways. But when I think of albums, I want to think of the whole composition of the record. And as a music fan, it's just not something that I've been doing lately with new artists. I keep going back to my old faithful. I know what I like and I listen to it, you know? There was one glaring omission, and it's glaring just as a fact. And this is a running joke from many years ago for Rusty, but Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell album is not on there. And it was funny because I had long hair and he used to poke fun of me saying I looked like Meatloaf, which was by far the most painful thing anybody's ever said to me in my life. But if you look at like the actual album sales, the most albums sold of all time, and this is to today, that Meatloaf album is 7th of all time. And it is just front to back. It's different than anything else. And you're talking about an album experience. That's what I look for. I mean, it's got that CD has a front, middle, and an end like a play has. And it's just, it doesn't miss. None of them miss.
It's a work of art is what it is. It's a work of art, truly.
And Thriller, the top end of this list that Apple Music did, they are well represented. Obviously, Thriller and Abbey Road and all these old ones, even Nevermind from Nirvana, you know, the incredible album cover, 21 by Adele. I thought that was properly ranked. If they've got it 15th overall, that was an incredible album from start to finish. It's one of those I listened to from start to finish. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. But a lot of these new stuff, like, I just don't know them. You've got
we've got our first
list. You've got
our first Taylor Swift is at 18, which I thought I was surprised that she had one of them coming in that low, given that it did look like a younger generation. And it's Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy from 2010, which I thought he had a couple better albums. David Bowie coming in at 24th, Bruce Springsteen at 22nd with Born to Run. Like that, I feel like that's like an old hat's like mantras. Like if you like Bruce Springsteen, like that album and those songs on the album, like kill it for you. Wu-Tang's on here, Tribe Called Quest, Nas, Illmatic is one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time, coming in at 39th. It was his debut album in 1994, but it's just hit after hit after hit. When I'm at the gym with like a long workout, I'll put it on and just kind of vibe out to it. It's really good. The Joshua Tree is one of the most critically acclaimed albums of all time. People who don't even like U2 rave about that album. Came in at 49th. A couple of other big ones. Rihanna's on here a few times. Tupac's All Eyes on Me come in at 62nd. Metallica making their first appearance at 69 with Masters of Puppets.
And I'm a huge ballads fan. Again, it's because of the father that raised me. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Elton John's Way Too Low. You didn't have any Billy Joel on here. You've got the Eagles at the end. AC/DC, who has the second high, that Back in Black album is the second highest grossing album and album sales, copies sold ever. And I mean, it was really low. So Shania Twain's Come On Over album was in the top 10, sold more than 40 million copies in 1997. I mean, and that's another thing is like, I just refuse to believe, and maybe I don't think that I'm a prisoner of the area in which I was born and raised.
Sure.
But country music is nationwide. It is, man. It is a universal language. It's there's small towns everywhere, and country music is not about the South as much as it is about small towns, and they're everywhere, and it's relatable. And for there to only be one album and it be Casey Musgraves, like George Jones isn't on this.
And that's wild. I mean, George Strait, Garth Brooks.
Just
I correct some of that here in a minute. Don't worry, faithful fans. Some of that's going to be on here. For me, a surprise was 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. I love that album in high school, but it clocked in as the 82nd best album of all time. And I hate myself that I know who this is. I hate that I have to know who this is. But any like Bad Bunny being on here, it's just like that's just the most annoying thing in the world.
Like,
it is the most annoying thing in the world when you have artists like George Jones, Hank Williams, Jr. or Senior.
I feel like the whole genre of music was left off.
It really was, and it's sad that that's how it was with Tyler, the Creator, getting on here and not having an actual like country artist. Because, like you said, country is nationwide, man. Travis Tritt sings, Garth Brooks sings about the American Honky Tonk Bar Association that is nationwide. Right. You can go into any small town in Ohio, Indiana, Idaho, New York, Maine, and you have an American Honky Tonk Bar Association.
The AHBA.
That's it, man. Contact today, according to Garth Brooks.
So obviously, I don't feel like I have a good grip on like pop culture. And so if they were to ask me to do this, I'd be so lost. Like, there's so many of these albums on this list that I've never heard of. I've never listened to a single song from the what is it? The
Bad Bunny?
No, the Miseducation. I wanted to say Misrepresentation, but Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I don't know that. That was before my time. My dad didn't listen to it. I'm very much a child of my father's, which sounds obvious to say, but like I count eras in my childhood, not by years or birthdays, but by what my dad was listening to, because he was the type of person that would put a cassette in and we would listen to it front to back nonstop for months and then we'd move on. So that's what I think about with albums. It's so hard to represent like what good albums are today because everybody is picking and choosing their songs. Right. That's more of an a la carte menu when it comes to your music pleasure right now and how you fill your bucket with music. It's hard to even talk about albums anymore, but for me, it's just not on the list.
What a great segue, though, Uncle Buck. You are becoming more and more professional by the day, because this morning when I contacted him about this, I said, hey, let's come up with our top 5 albums of all time. If you don't like these lists, that's your fault. Make your own list. Put it in the comments. Let us know what your top 5 are. But I put in the top 5 most influential albums for me. I'll be honest, I had one in here. I just recently made a change late this afternoon. I had a movie soundtrack on here for me. Top Gun was one of the best albums of all time. That soundtrack's incredible. It's in the CD player of my truck right now because I still have one of those. But I changed it and said, I'm just doing albums of one artist. Then I have a top 5 of my most influential artists. Uncle Buck, do you want to go popcorn style? Do you want to give me all 5 of yours? How you want to do this, sir?
I want you to do your 5, then I'll do my 5. I will say, though, don't discount the popularity of the soundtrack because in the best-selling albums of all time, the Whitney Houston / various artists soundtrack for The Bodyguard is the 3rd highest album sold of all time. So you do your 5. I think our criteria is going to be a little different. This is maybe it's not. I'm just going to give you the albums that I loved that were important to me. I'm not saying that everybody else has got to have these. But for me, it's what shaped my childhood. It's what shaped my adult life. And that's where we're going with it.
Exactly. I didn't get caught in a prisoner of the moment because I do love American Heartbreak by Zach Bryan. I love Purgatory by Tyler Childers, but I went way back for my top 5. Number 5, one of my all-time favorite artists, even though he yelled at me at Pickwick Lake one time, is A Lot About Living by Alan Jackson. That's the album that gives us Chattahoochee, A Lot About Living, Barstool, like all these great hits come off of that. Mercury Blues was on that one. I want to buy me a Mercury and cruise it up and down the road. Top 5 album, number 5, A Lot About Living by Alan Jackson. Talk about albums that play with your father. My dad's 2 favorite bands are Journey and Styx. And that Blue Collar Man album by Styx, we played until it wouldn't play anymore. I've got hit after hit.
Countless videos of me doing a song off that Blue Collar Man album for Styx, Renegade.
I was about to say that's my favorite song on that album.
When I was a kid, because my sister and I, started, oh, mama, I'm in fear. And then it would go through the real somber, and then it would break, and you'd hear, ah! And that was my sister's favorite part. We'd just stand there and scream,
Yeah, man. I absolutely love that album. I've just had these fond memories of my dad's 1994 Ford Ranger of us listening to that album and just singing every word to every song. Renegade especially. Shout out Rockman. Love Styx because of Rockman. But that's number 4 for me. Number 3 is The Chronic. Dr. Dre, Eminem, great hip-hop album. I love that album. Again, it's one that I listen to on repeat. I really like that one a lot. It came in the top 20, I believe, in our list. 19, Dr. Dre. 1992 is my favorite hip-hop album of all time. And not a huge hip-hop guy unless I'm working out. Chronic makes my list. Number 2 is my favorite Garth album of all time. He had so many good ones with Fresh Horses and his live albums and just so many. But my favorite is In Pieces. Love that album. It's the black and red checkerboard album. I'm trying to remember exactly when it came out, but there's so many songs on there that
you can't find it on Apple Music because he doesn't do anything on Apple. So you got to look
or
Amazon.
Spotify. It's on YouTube.
It's Amazon is where you
Amazon.
Find it.
1993. That's the album that gave us Standing Outside the Fire, the American Honky Tonk Bar Association, that gave us Calling Baton Rouge, Ain't Going Down Till the Sun Comes Up, hit after hit after hit.
Album.
The Red Strokes. What a great, great song. If you hadn't listened to that song, just a deep,
is that
that
summer on that album too?
No, that's not That Summer. If so, that would have been it, man. But like One Night a Day gave us the Cowboy song. If you hadn't listened to that, you talk about ballads. The Cowboy song is a song just about like cowboys. It's incredible, like just the life as a cowboy. But In Pieces, 1993, Garth's best album in my opinion. Bop after bop. Listen, if you don't listen to any of them, listen to the Red Strokes. Great song. Number 1, top most influential album for me of all time, again, takes me back with my father, is actually the first CD I ever owned. My dad bought me this CD because it was his favorite album of all time. And because of that, it's my favorite because it's the first CD I ever owned. Came out the same year that I was born, the year of our Lord, 1987, Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi. Great album, one of their top selling albums of all time. I remember vividly my dad buying me a CD player, handing me that CD and say, this will be your favorite album as well. And to this day, I'm 37 and still my favorite album. I know every word to every song on that because that was the only CD I owned for a long time until my mom bought me Mark Willis's Greatest Hits. But I love that CD, and that album is so, so good and was so influential for me when in an era when I was learning and cutting my teeth on music, right?
Right.
Just You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, Raise Your Hands, Wanted Dead or Alive, I'd Die for You. There's so many good Bon Jovi
Bed of
songs
Roses?
on the album.
Is Bed of Roses on that
Not
one?
on that one, no.
Oh, okay.
Wild in the Streets, Let It Rock. Again, I can sing. I'll spare our listeners, but I can sing every word to every song on that album. My number one, Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi.
Yeah, I've got a lot here that kind of go through my mind, and like I said, most of these are either like I've got one from recent day, one from like high school that meant a lot to me, kind of got me on this particular band for a long time. Then I've got some that are just oldies, and so I'll start off with the oldies. I'm not giving them any particular order. I don't think I can rank these if I wanted to because they mean something different for all of them, all of us. But the oldest, I talk about the cassette player in my dad's truck. The one I remember more than any of them is the greatest hits of Leonard Skinner. And I know that's probably a cop out, but that's what was in it. So that cassette in particular is the one for me. It was the greatest hits. It did have all the hits on it. Give Me 3 Steps was my favorite. I could do Give Me 3 Steps every word backwards and forwards till the day I die. I could not listen to it for years, decades, and it's one of those I could pick right back up. The groove's great. It's just it marked my childhood in such a way that honestly made my dad regret it because he wished that I loved my mom's music because it was all praise and worship Christian music from the 90s, and instead I gravitated towards my dad's. And another one in that same vein is Volcanoes by Jimmy Buffett, the late great, the pirate himself.
Hats off.
It was just a great album. It had, obviously Volcanoes. It had Fins, which was one of those songs as a kid, you dance to. You got fins to the left, fins to the right, you fall in love again, And so that was another big one that just really marked my childhood. Styx was in there. I really hate that you took that because it genuinely was. I'm not just piggybacking.
We can share that one. No, we can share.
Like, that Styx album resonates with me, but I did cross it out. And I'm going with I just blanked on the name. Give me 1 second. It is by one of the many artists that died way too young. The Louisiana man himself, Jim Croce. And that album was Don't Mess Around with Jim by Jim Croce. Was an absolute banger of an album. He died way too young, but if you know any Jim Croce, you know this album. You Don't Mess Around with Jim, Photographs and Memories, Operator, Time in a Bottle, all of them except for Bad Leroy Brown.
Right.
Is on that album. And so
I'll
take that album and then I will a la carte Bad Leroy Brown into a playlist. And that'll be my Jim Croce playlist. The next one is my high school. It's the first time I kind of branched off and kind of really found my own band that I loved, and it was the Zac Brown Band. And they were like peak of powers when I was in high school. I was a big fan of them. They came out with Chicken Fried and all those kind of early hits, and I became a fan. But then when I bought the You Get What You Give album, I went to that was the first one that made me fall in love with them. That's the one that had Colder Weather on it. But their best album is Uncaged, in my opinion. That's the one that's got Sweet Annie, Natural Disaster. I mean, just start to bottom, both of those albums, 10 out of 10. I remember the first time I listened to Sweet Annie in my car because it was before, I may have had an iPhone, but you had to go buy the CD and load it on your computer to get it on your phone and all that whole thing. So CDs were still very relevant. And I remember going to Walmart the day that CD came out and buying it and then just driving while I listened. The only purpose of driving around was just to finish this album. Yeah. And I remember it had no misses on it. It was great. And then the last one that I've got is my current favorite band, who has been my favorite band for a pretty good while now. It's a band that we have seen together in concert, Need to Breathe.
They were just outside my top 5 And if it's the same album, then we were meant to be best friends.
It's Out of Body is my favorite album for them.
Yeah.
And
mine's Outsiders, but it's very close.
Outsiders, it's very close for me, but there's really one song from Out of Body that kind of takes it over the edge for me. I mean, I named my son after a song on this album.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's you and Haley's song too, right? If I'm not mistaken. So,
well, no, our first dance was to a Leon Bridges song, Leon Bridges and Luke Combs collaboration. But that's a great song. You should look it up. But Out of Body has just a bunch of really awesome groovy songs. Like I love the Survival that had Drew and Ellie Holcomb in it, and then Mercy Shore. And this is the reason why I wanted to preface this by saying this is important to me, because I do know that a lot of people that listen to this show may not have Need to Breathe on their radar, and that's fine. But just as if you're a fan of the show and you're a fan of Rusty and I, do us both a favor and check them out, because we love them. And that song Banks hit me at such the right time, right after my daughter was born, and just pushed me all the way into just a sob driving home, because it just ironically happened to come on, just shuffle as we're bringing my daughter home from the hospital. And if you guys don't know this song Banks, it's not about the local commerce bank or Regions. It's about the banks of a river. The chorus goes, I want to hold you close but never hold you back, like the banks of a river. And if you say you're not good enough, I'm going to break all your mirrors. And that, as a father of a daughter, resonated to me in such an integral, primal way that I was like, we held it and we held it tight until, and we still do, but then we ended up naming our son that. So, that album and that song in particular is the reason why it's my favorite Need to Breathe song.
Need to Breathe, definitely my favorite band. It's a band that we share as our favorite bands of all time. Look up Banks. When I post some stuff about the show this week on IG, listen out for that song. Phenomenal songs, the bop from start to finish. Out of Body, great album for sure. But that's our top 5 list. If you don't like it, sucks to be you. Give us your list. Tell us what your top 5 are in the comments. I'm going to post this to our Instagram this weekend, our list, and I'm going to put on there, what's your favorite album? Give us your favorite album. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. Give us what we left off, what Apple got right or wrong. And thanks for being here at the hour and 20-minute mark. You know, our show's a little bit different right now. Again, we're heading into the doldrums of, we're getting another song.
I'm just going to close this out.
I love it. Just play while I ramble. We're in a worship service here at your local church. So whether you like sports or not,
feel free to pass around the offering plate, people.
Absolutely. Listen, I give you a hat. You can pass it around if you want to make some donations. But this show's going to get a little kooky, a little wild over the summer. Again, if you're a sports fan, we love you. We're glad you're here. If you're not a sports fan, give us a listen. There's going to be some great stuff coming up. We're going to rank snacks. We're going to talk about our favorite beers, our favorite foods, a lot of stuff we did in the early days. If you're an OG of this show, you'll remember our snake drafts and our Mount Rushmores and our arguments over the best little Debbies. And so stay tuned. More of that tomfoolery.
It's the Swiss cake roll.
No, absolutely not. It's an oatmeal cream pie. And if you disagree, get out. Get out. Nothing gets us feisty like snack foods. But stay tuned. We're going to be polling our audience. Again, this is a great opportunity to shamelessly plug the Discord. Hop in the Discord. That's where we're going to be posting a lot of polls. We're going to be posting a lot of ways that you can interact with us, other great content creators on this network. All of it happens at bluffcity.co. Go in there, log in, sign up, $5 a month. Screenshot it and send it to Uncle Buck and I. We will pay for your first month of Bluff City Media's Insider Track. So definitely give that a look. Give us a listen. Thank y'all for being here. Seriously, we're just two rednecks from North Mississippi and now the 901 Memphis who happen to love sports, love each other most days, just get on here and act a fool and sing random songs and give you our opinions and know that we're wrong most of the time. But I'm glad to be here, man. You know, there's nothing I'd rather be doing on a Thursday night, that's for sure. So, Drew, I appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate our audience. Got anything of parting wisdom before we go, sir?
Yeah. Don't get run over by a Yamaha. 1, 2. Kurt got ran over by a Yamaha. That's going to be it for tonight. You get what you pay for with the $2. Good night, guys.
See y'all next
Love
week.
you, Kirk.
Thank you for listening to the 2 Bucks Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider.